Hey you guys, this is Tyree. Welcome back to another episode of Loc'd Talks. And if you have not already, I want you to go to my website, www.tyrewilson.com, to subscribe to the podcast. I upload to Facebook, YouTube, Instagram, as well as the following podcast platforms on Anchor, Spotify, iTunes, Google Podcasts, Castbox, Breaker, anywhere that podcast can be heard. If you guys would like to share, like, subscribe, rate the podcast wherever it is that you're listening to, it really helps the podcast grow and get new listeners and get our old listeners a little bit more engaged with the content that we create. So a little bit of news this week. I uploaded my first live stream video over on YouTube using Streamyard, and I learned about a Streamyard through a business coach that I follow, Elise Michelle, and I learned a lot about using the free version of Streamyard. So I'm going to probably be using the paid version soon, where I think you pay up for like the year and it allows you to have a lot more features. You can bring on other guests and stuff like that. That's the direction of the podcast where I'm going into 2020. You know, our new year, new way of doing things, and getting in touch with standing husbands, standing wives, men and women who are doing the best that they can in order to develop themselves, who are looking for support and a community and unity, you know, wherever they can find it. And I wanted Loc'd Talks to be a part of that community. So if you ever want to join the conversation, if you ever want to email me, you want to message me, you have a request for topics that maybe I can talk about, questions I can answer, as well as engaging with the content that I bring, please feel free to email me, contact me at my website. There is a button there that you can click to get in touch with me. I'll get the email and I will respond back to you. And with your permission, I can respond in a podcast, or I can respond through email, whichever is easiest for you. So, going along those lines of that type of request, I got a request from a listener named Chris. Chris, how you doing, bud? He sent me one asking about a topic request about, let me double check my name. It was dealing with a depressed spouse. That is a topic that a lot of people go through, because the symptoms of depression, not necessarily depression itself, is kind of what pops up. It is something that you may be having to deal with in your relationship, and there is a multitude of reasons as to why you may feel like you're dealing with a depressed spouse. First of all, depression. Let me. We have to first of all figure out what is depression. I'm going to look it up right now, so that when we talk about it, when we understand it, we know exactly what it is. Let's see. Depression. I don't like that. This is the medical. Hold on. There we go. The medical dictionary of depression, which is like clinical depression. That's not what I'm looking for. That's a whole nother conversation in and of itself. Depression, feelings of severe despondency and dejection, as far as economics are concerned, a long and severe recession in an economy or market. Feelings of severe despondency and dejection. So, depression, depending on its level, can be clinical, or it can be simply a symptom as to the circumstances that your spouse is a part of. And how do you deal with a partner with depression? Well, let me share with you guys a part of my own story and how I thought that my wife was dealing with not only depression but anxiety at the same time. Now, did I ask her if she was depressed while we were going through our separation, or that she was experiencing anxiety? No, I didn't. I only assumed she was because of the antics that she displayed, the words that we exchanged between the both of us, the distance that we both felt. It kind of struck me as depression, and I ended up talking to one of my college instructors who, he has his doctorates in psychology, and I wanted to speak to him about what I noticed in my wife, and if it was possible for depression and anxiety to exist at the exact same time. Is there a way for people to experience that same thing? And so he kind of thought about it, and he said it's possible, but depression can be masked. Depression can be masked for many reasons. It's just a response to a situation that you don't care much for. I don't mean necessarily you guys. You guys are awesome, but if you have a spouse who is dealing with depression, what are they doing? First and foremost, let's think about somebody who's depressed. What are they possibly doing? What they're not doing is interacting with you or interacting with anyone, actually, with family. A depressed person may sink into being a workaholic. They could be working like never before. They cover themselves in hours. They're constantly looking. There's no aim as to why they're working so much. If you asked them what was their financial goals, they couldn't tell you what their financial goals were. They just want to go to work because that's all they really care about. And that's just another way to mask things up. Depression also manifests itself through eating. Some people, like me, myself, I'm an emotional eater. Like if I go through my hard feelings, I might say I'm depressed, but what you'll see me doing is I'll start eating pizza, or I'll eat cereal, which I think I posted a picture of some late night snacking over on Instagram if you guys follow me over there at Loc'd. But when I feel like I'm going through some things, especially with my wife, and I'm just a little confused as to how to deal with it, the first thing I want to do is I want to eat something. I'm an emotional eater. That's my sin. That's my cross to bear. I bear it. I try my very best to deal with it. Another way that depression forms and manifests itself is sexual inequality. I say sexual inequality because there are a lot of people who are chronic masturbators, people who self-soothe themselves through physical manipulation, only because for a while the what's the word I'm looking for? I believe it's like the euphoria, of a sexual session or a masturbation. It gives people a certain sense of relief from what they're feeling. It gives them a certain high from their low. But to continue doing it, I guess that would be considered chronic masturbation, is you do it so much that you're not even sexually interested in your partner anymore. And that's what a lot of people sometimes get a little mixed up. They feel like when there's depression, you don't feel like doing anything. You are a human being. Your spouse is a human being. They're going to find some way to cope with what they're doing. If they're feeling like they're lonely, they're going to find someone who helps them feel like they're worthy. They're going to find somebody, whether they like them or not. Humans love interaction, and we will look for interaction, but the human brain cannot stand pain or discomfort and will do anything it can to avoid that. So being depressed does not necessarily mean that you don't want to be with anyone. You may want to be with somebody, but not the person that you feel is causing you the most pain. So how do you deal with that person, with a depressed individual? Well, as I said, when I spoke to my instructor, I brought those exact same traits over to in the conversation with him, and I told him my wife doesn't want to talk. She doesn't talk to her family. She's kind of harsh with the girls. She's working a lot. She's barely sleeping. She's barely eating, and yet she still seems to be so angry, so ready for things to change. I felt like there's nothing I can do. Is there a possibility that she could be going through a depression? And my instructor said it's possible she could be displaying the symptoms of the rigmarole of a depressed individual. But as far as dealing with depression, where maybe it lasts months and they can feel depression coming before it hits, no, she's not depressed. She's simply upset